Hello, and this is my assignment for week 8. I believe this is the last assignment, and it was probably the one that I enjoyed the most doing because it had to do with me actually talking to uh, two people initially, and I'm going to continue to have this conversation over and over again, probably for the next month to 2 months, talking to different groups about the things that I've learned being in this course. So, a little background on why I am in the NPLC course. So, I've been in church planting for 10 years as a planter, and 6 of those years I was in a non-denomination kind of a setting. The last 4 years, I was introduced into Methodism, and as I was becoming a full clergy in the Methodist tradition, I was planting or replanting the church that I had planted 6 years before, altogether 10 years, and now I'm appointed as the associate pastor of Living Spirit for the first year. The senior pastor there is retiring next year. And then next year, I'm stepping into the full-time pastor's position. One thing, based upon my strengths and my weaknesses that we've come up with, is that I have almost no, not a, yeah, I'd say almost no experience dealing with finances as it relates to church planting, and the church wanted a stronger, wanted me to have stronger understanding of the financial part of the church thing. The thing that I'm outlandishly good at is outreach, community engagement, social justice. Those types of things are where I'm really strong at. But this was intended to help me grow in this area. So that's kind of like the back understanding of why I'm in the program, or why Living Spirit said, "Sean, we want you to be a part of this program." So the number one thing that I've really enjoyed about being in the program is all of the learning that I received around finances. So let's just say that, number one, it was outlandishly overwhelming to me. So you're looking at someone who has gone from zero experience in this to a great deal of having a great deal of knowledge dumped into my lap, and now I'm kind of sourcing through it, and so that's really good. But the people that I spoke to were the senior pastor and also the chair of the SPRT, who's also on the finance team. So, and the chair of the SPRT was last year's chair of the finance team, and so these are the two people that I initially had the meeting with. That both of these individuals are the ones that said, "Hey, Sean, we want you to do this certificate program." So it's all good. There are exactly 3 things. Well, I learned a great deal, right? And so I learned a great deal about many things, but there are 3 things that I picked up on that have pretty much like stuck with me, that I have talked to the church about, and that we're literally going to try to implement those things. The first was this director of generosity. I had never heard of anything like this, but after doing some research on it, reading some things about it, I thought, oh wow! Not only is this something that I think is very much needed in all churches, right? And so for me, as a church planter, you're always looking for ways and opportunities to capitalize on folks who have power, that means to do something, and authority, the right to do something in a particular context, like a church, that can help you grow. And so the idea of generosity being a 24/7 type of thing makes sense to me. Why would you talk about generosity only one time a year? And I've also learned, this is a side note, that a great deal of the things that I've learned and been able to do in my church plant have been quasi or close to having an understanding of finances, or different terminology of things that I do it this way, but it's called this. Has played out a great deal as it relates to being the associate pastor currently now. But as for this director of generosity, I spoke to the senior pastor and I said, "Hey, I think this is a really great idea. we want someone to be able to take our mission and our vision, which we're currently working on, and apply those things to our finances, to donating, and then also just the generosity of having people do ministry. And they both said, "Oh wow, that's something that we want to look into." So literally, from being in the class, hearing this new term, and then addressing it with my senior pastor, we're now going to enter into discussing what would it be like to have a director of generosity, and we've got money, right? So this is a church that has made a strong effort in saving money for rainy days, and my new kind of mantra is rain takes on many forms. It doesn't just mean actual rain in a roof; it can mean raining in new ways, and so I think we are currently in a rainy season with COVID. And what does it mean to spend money to fix those things? So that's the number one thing. This director of generosity, we are going to move forward and do something like that. The second thing was narrative report writing. Again, I thought it was so cool that you would use pictures and tell a story around giving finances. And so we always, as a church planter, you always tell a story about why you need something. It was never like, can I have this? It was like, let me tell you a story about why this is important and how you can actually be a part of this thing. And so I talked about narrative report writing to both of them. And they're like, that makes sense to us. So again, we're going to be doing the narrative report writing. I really enjoyed the Hope report. I was just like, shocked by it. It was just, I think, a beauty. I just think it's neat that you can share a story about finances in your budget that pulls on people's heartstrings. So that was the second thing. And the third was making our budget simplistic. It's just very complicated. And someone who doesn't understand and get finances that well, it was a report that in itself just was overwhelming to me. And everyone keeps saying this report is so overwhelming for the kind of money that we use. And again, I think it's $1 million that we work, or just a little less than $1 million. That's everything, all the money coming in. But it's just very complicated. And so I'm going to have Thea, thanks Thea, give us a hand in meeting with our team. And again, that was the other thing I said. I said, hey, there's an opportunity to have someone who's a professional come in and take a look at some things and help us through. And they're like, yes, we want to do so. So I think the very first class, I don't know how many more classes that I have in this program, but the very first class that I've had has turned out to be something that's been a blessing to myself and to our congregation. Again, I said they were the three things that I thought were very important that stuck with me, which was the director of generosity, narrative report writing, and making our budget by far more simplistic. I brought these three things to the forefront of these two, and they were like, yes to, let's do it. Let's somehow figure out how to do a director. Yes, we want to start working with this narrative report writing. And yes, we want to make our budget by far easier to digest for those that are in the congregation. So overall, I think the very first class was a success. There have been times that I've gone to training, and even in my seminary degree, it was like, yep, I'm glad I'm done with that, and I'll probably never use that ever again, but it's part of this degree. But this very first class was outlandishly insightful, and I think part of it was just I have no clue about the issues surrounding this, and now I do have a clue. So I used to sit in finance meetings and just kind of sit there and let people speak at me and just say, okay, that's good, that's good. Now I have kind of a stronger view of that, which I've got more to learn. But again, I appreciate it, and thank you, and that's about it. Peace.